So what are the top 5 things that you need to do as a taxidermist to make sure that your shop is a failure? I have made a list of my personal top 5, and I truly believe that if you do these 5 things, or even maybe one of these 5 things, that you will fail as a taxidermist. Number 5, taking too many animals. Guys, I see this all the time. And though it may not be the number 1 most important thing, because it will work for about a year to 2 years before you have so many people that start to complain and get mad that you actually start to lose business. You'll actually have a whole bunch of money and you'll look very successful on the front end to yourself. But all of a sudden, it gets to be deer season number 2, deer season number 3, and you've got all these piles of animals that you can't get finished with. If you don't make sure that you're done by the season, every season, there are going to be people mad because they're going to be getting ready for the upcoming deer season, fishing season, whatever it is, and they're still not going to have their animals back when it's time for them to start hunting, start fishing again. And that's going to become a problem. And the longer that goes on, the more of a problem it's going to be. I would suggest taking enough to do for 1 year and 1 year only and start that process over again. Number 4, that's anatomy. Make sure that your deer or your animals look like the animal that they're supposed to look like. I don't put this at the very top of the line because I do see a lot of taxidermists that are very successful that don't have the greatest anatomy, and some people just don't have an eye for that. But if you do quality work, your work is going to look like your work. It's going to look like what I call your brand, and there will always be a customer follow you because of your brand. So I don't put that at the very top of the line, but at the same time, if a deer looks like a coyote, then it's just not going to be very good in the end, and you're not going to get a very big following of customers. Even if you do have some, you're never going to be able to make a living at it because it's just not going to be correct. Number 3, if you want to make sure that you fail as a taxidermist, lie to your customers. Make sure that you tell them it's going to be done in 6 months, and tell every one of them 6 months, because that seems to be the going rate. And what will happen is 6 months will come, and all of a sudden, every single deer that you've got in your shop, or fish, or bird, or turkey, has got to be done on the same day, because all of a sudden you got 100, 200 people calling you saying, hey, you told me 6 months. This is July. This is August. Where is my animal at? Guys, make sure that you tell these folks a reasonable amount of time. If you think it's going to take 8 months, tell them a year. Give them that expectation. Under promise and over deliver. That's always the rule of thumb in business, especially when it comes to taxidermy. Sometimes things come up, you don't really know how long it's going to take, but you can get a really good estimate. Just give them a straight answer. Now, another way that you can lie to the customer is the old fake it till you make it. You don't want to do that as a taxidermist. Listen, if you start out great, if you've got a good background and you learned how to do a great looking deer the day that you start, that is just fine. But if you don't, if you start like I did and you're just putting together animals and somebody's like, hey, will you mount this for me? Make sure you charge accordingly and make sure that you let them know what to expect. Don't tell them, hey, I do great work. Like, I'm a very picky person. I like to do competition style taxidermy. And then you turn out a garbage looking head and then try to charge them $1,000 for it. Like, that is going to give you a bad reputation from deer number 1, fish number 1, turkey number 1, duck number 1, and it is going to be a problem. That reputation is going to be your lifeblood of your business. So make sure that you're straightforward up front, and if you charge a cheap enough price for the quality of work, people are going to respect that, they're going to understand that, and when they get something back, even if it doesn't look great to them, they're going to be like, well, I got what I paid for. All right, we're getting higher on the list now. Number 2, procrastination. You want to just destroy everything? Be a procrastinator. Make sure that you never check your freezers, never check your pH or your pickle. Don't do any of those things. The most important thing you can do in your taxidermy shop once you get going is to make sure that you keep a good work ethic. When you're working for yourself, you don't have to work. You don't have to do anything. You make your own hours. You do however many deer you want to do in a day. You clean up if you want to or not. But guys, Saturday and Sunday even, if you decide you're not going to work weekends, you have got to go and check those freezers. All those capes, all those hides that you've got in those freezers are somebody's memories or somebody's dreams or somebody's paychecks. There's somebody's first deer. There's somebody's kid's first deer. Make sure you go and just open the lid, make sure everything in there is frozen, because the worst problem that I see when it comes to procrastination is not necessarily not mounting deer. It's not checking on your shop. You let those freezers go. If it's the middle of summertime and you don't have a really freezing cold room, then, it doesn't take but about 3 or 4 days. You go on vacation and don't have somebody check on your shop, your freezers. It don't take but a few days, and all of a sudden you've got 50 hides ruined. And you can't replace that many capes in that short amount of time. Even if you told everybody what you did and you lost all of their capes, it is going to be hard to find 50 capes to replace all these deer, especially the sizes that you need. The best thing you can do is plan. No matter what you're doing, if you're going on vacation for a whole week, plan. Tell somebody, pay somebody to come and check your freezers, check your shop, make sure everything is in order. Do not procrastinate when you go to make your orders. You will get discounts when you make large orders, so plan ahead. Try to make those $1,000, $1,500 orders at a time rather than trying to order the supplies a little bit at a time for each deer. It's going to cost you a fortune in the end. So plan ahead. Get the orders ahead of time. Get everything lined up to where you know you can get those discounts so that when you get everything in, you're making more money on the front end, put more money in your pocket, charging the customer less with you still being able to make the same amount. It's all going to work out a whole lot better. And with that pickle, check that pH. Your pH in that pickle is just as important as that freezer freezing. So if you procrastinate, just decide, today I'm not going to look at that. Tomorrow I'm not going to look at that. The next thing you know, if you're doing a batch of 15 like I do, you got 15 capes that is skin and there's a whole bunch of hair floating. And listen, you do not want that either. Like I said, it's hard enough to replace one cape, much less 15 or 50. And in my opinion, the number one problem most taxidermists are going to have when they decide to open a shop is overhead. It does not cost a whole lot of money to mount a deer, okay? The stuff that you need to mount the deer is going to cost a little bit of money to get started. A place to do it, people do it in their garage. People do it outside in their driveway, all right? Let me show y'all something, okay? Let's just take a look here. We'll take a little field trip out here at my shop, all right? You see this? This used tin on this used barn? See that? Look at that. See that? Look at here. We got grass growing in my gravel. You see that? All right, this barn was here when I bought the property. All right, see this little room? So I built this room, concrete, poured some concrete floors. When I first started in here, this was actually a deer processing shop. Is what I built it to do, is to just process my own deer. And I started doing a few for some other people. The next thing you know, I'm doing taxidermy for myself, then I'm doing taxidermy for everybody else. Well, this whole room right here, the side of this barn, this side shed's all it is. It's a lean-to. It was a goat pen. This was a goat pen. It had dirt, hay, manure floors that I had to come in here with a tiller and till up to get soft enough to shovel out of here and wheelbarrow out so that I could pour concrete. And then I put some walls in here and some lights, and now here's deer heads. And I work from home, and this is my full-time job in a goat pen. All right, one day, I hope and pray that I will have enough money to pay cash to build me a shop. I don't really intend on going into debt to build a taxidermy shop when I already have one. I mean, it's doing the job. It is what it is. Now, if you want to be a little bit more fancy, you can, but I'm telling you right now, if you're turning out good work and you're honest and you do everything that you say you're going to do for that customer, they do not care. I'm proof positive. They do not care what they come to get their deer out of. They do not care what you're mounting it in, anything. As long as they can get that deer back, it looks beautiful, and they can put it on the wall. Now, if you make $250,000 a year and you want to build a fortress to do taxidermy in, that is awesome. I wish that I could do that, but I do not make $250,000 a year. So my little cozy taxidermy shop is all that I need. And I'll tell you something else. Don't make it too big, because then you got to run around too far to get to everything. I kind of like being able to stand in one spot, turn around, have everything right here that I need. It's a little bit more efficient, so keep that in mind too. The bigger is not always the better. You may need room for a showroom, you may need room for supplies, but keep your work area relatively compact so that you don't have to run back and forth trying to get everything that you need to get. And just remember, guys, the more money that you spend, the more money that you have to make. You might be able to live off of $20,000 a year. More power to you. If you can live off $20,000 a year, you still got to make enough money to be able to pay for all the supplies and pay for all your power and all your water and everything else and still make $20,000 a year. So keep that in mind when you go to build a $100,000 shop and you're only going to be making $50,000 a year. Like, the money may not work out. You got to be real careful, especially getting started out. Go ahead and build you something small, work your way up. You can pay for bigger shops as all that comes, but don't get too greedy to begin with. Make sure that you stay successful so that it all works out in the end without a whole bunch of stress, a whole bunch of anxiety. That's usually why people end up quitting. It's August here right now. Deer season's coming up. A whole bunch of y'all are probably getting ready to maybe open a shop, maybe try out some taxidermy. Keep these 5 things in mind and do not do them when you decide to get your shop started. Appreciate y'all watching. See y'all in the next video.